In more than 600,000 different places each year, more than 600,000 Americans fall victim to heart attacks. One approach to the problem is to expand the community's existing emergency services to provide for immediate, effective coronary care. This is the story of that approach, told by some of the people who pioneered it, people whose lives have been touched by it, people who make it work in cities and communities like yours.
We're buying time. We think it's a good investment. From the minute a heart attack strikes, a life is on the line.
It's in the first hour or two that the danger of sudden death is the greatest. The idea is to bring coronary care to the patient as early as possible.
Jim Hughes, Director of Public Safety, Columbus, Ohio.
The challenge is to get a person with a heart attack connected up to the coronary care system as soon as possible. There are many ways to do this. The way is unimportant. It is to have a system that really works. Most cities don't have this yet.
Hospital-based coronary care units have been a real advance of the last decade. For those patients that live to get to the hospital, the mortality rate has been cut by 1/3 or more.
Dr. James Warren, Ohio State University Hospitals.
Right, the trouble is that over 60% of the people with heart attacks never live to reach the hospital. If we could reduce their mortality rate by the same amount that we can in the hospital, we could probably save over 100,000 lives per year in the USA.
Fire department. Yes, ma'am. You say your husband's having a heart attack? 462 Townsend. Right away, ma'am.
Attention Squad 17 and Medic 7, 462 Townsend Avenue, possible heart attack.
That's down the freeway to Mound Street, south on Harmon.
Since you can apply coronary care anywhere as long as you have the resources, the idea now is to bring coronary care to the patient and not wait to bring the patient to the coronary care unit.
South on Central to Sullivan, west on Sullivan. It's about 6 blocks. On left.
Well, basically, about 2 out of every 3 calls that we have in the fire department are for some type of a rescue service. About 5% are for people who have had heart attacks. We think that firemen are ideally suited to be able to carry out these type of assignments because firemen by nature, by disposition, by training, are in the business and have a real desire to save lives and to rescue property.
Be real still if you can, sir. Is there a fan on in here?
Sounds like there's one out there.
Turn it off for me if you can.
Well, you got starts here in lead 2. You got to show PVCs, a little bit of ST. ST depression, ST depression. Most of the PVCs. No P waves.
I have Zyman oxygen joint right now.
Towels are good. Towels are
Now, this is going to be like a little mosquito bite here.
Your BP cup.
Okay. Do a different place right now.
Yeah, I like those kind of veins. Okay, we're about ready to go.
Before the Heartmobile came into service, it was really a traumatic experience to have someone die in your arms when you can't help them.
John Harold, paramedic.
Now we can really do a job. We can treat them at the scene without having to run them to the hospital in one big hurry.
Doctor said his blood doesn't taste too easy.
Roger, 23 on the air.
Medic 7 to 6 East.
Medic 7 to 6 East.
This is Dr. Lewis. Tracing is coming in clearly.
Yeah, it looks sinus.
Normal sinus and lead 2, right?
Looks like sinus rhythm.
Very good. We're taking this gentleman that we have on board with us over to Mount Carmel Hospital.
What kind of therapy have you started? Have you started the lidocaine?
We got an IV started with him, and we got 50 milligrams of 2% lidocaine started.
That sounds good to me.
Medic 7 to University 6 East, will you notify Mount Carmel to have Dr. Anthony stand by at the emergency room? Dr. Anthony is the doctor of the patient we have on board.
Okay, I'll take care of that right away.
He's doing just fine. We don't have to run with the sirens when we transport this patient to the hospital. We already have him stabilized. We're transmitting by telemetry back to a doctor at the CCU so that the doctor can observe what's happening with the patient as we do take him to the hospital.
You can't provide mobile coronary care in a vacuum. It must be integrated into both the emergency and coronary care systems of the community. We want to get a patient into an effective system that can keep up the continuity of care that was started when the paramedics arrived on the scene. An efficient hospital emergency room can be a vital part of this overall system.
Which is normal. But he complained of severe pain, radiating down his arms.
Was he up when you got the pain? You've been sweating?
A little bit.
Okay, just lay back.
My name is John William O'Brien. I've lived in Columbus for the past 40 years. I'm on the 5th floor now of the intensive care unit. I followed the Heartmobile up to bring my buddy up, Clarence Mars. Last December, just before Christmas, I had a heart attack myself. Of course, I didn't know what I was having. I started fading away. My wife called the emergency squad. I was fortunate enough that they had the Heartmobile. At that time, they sent it out to my place and picked me up. And if I was fortunate enough to have been a millionaire at that time, I would have laid it on the line for the job they done for me and for my buddy, Clarence Mars, tonight.
Dr. Burt's office, 7th floor. Patient keeled over right in his office.
4, 5. Has a long history of angina.
Do you want any medication?
2, 3, 4, 5. It's been on nitroglycerin.
Set the D50.
5.
An emergency cardiac care system really passes or fails based upon the quality of the people that you have in the system.
3, 4, 5.
Okay, everybody stand clear. 400, go.
Okay.
Well, these squadmen are very capable men, and after having trained 3 classes, I would be willing to place my life in their hands any time.
Mrs. Katie Sampson, Assistant Director of the Heartmobile Training Program.
The training we put the men through is the same basic course that we give the nurses that work in the coronary care unit. When these men come to us, they already have training in general medical emergencies and victim care.
Stick on it.
Just relax.
How many drops?
Whenever possible, we try to give the man an opportunity to go up to the coronary care unit and work with the nurse and the physician with the actual coronary patient, both while he's taking his training and after his training is completed so that he can continue to learn.
Dr. Stephen Schall, Coronary Care Unit Physician.
Paramedics are filling a real gap in the overall medical needs of the community these days. We just don't have enough doctors or nurses in the medical field today, and the paramedics are doing many of the tasks that we formerly did and freeing up some physician and nurse time.
He's obese, he's diaphoretic, quite a bit of chest pain, radiating down his arms. We have him hooked up to the scope, and we read what is possibly atrial fibrillation.
Director of Paramedic Training for Los Angeles County, California, Colonel Gaylord Ailshire.
The objective of our program is to, as rapidly as possible, get the unit to the scene of an emergency, be it a cardiac case or other type of emergency, such as traffic accident, stabilize the patient at the scene, and then call for a commercial ambulance.
Some of these units are manned by physicians. Some are manned by a nurse who communicates with a physician at the base. And more are manned now by trained paramedical personnel, notably firemen and, in some instances, police squads.
Dr. Mortimer Schwartz, chairman of the National Committee on Early Coronary Care. John Connors, editor of Medical Opinion magazine, which was instrumental in forming the National Committee and the ACT Foundation, which supports its activities, and is committed to the continuing support and editorial coverage of advances in early coronary care programs.
A fraction of the number we ought to have.
What has been the reaction of the public to mobile coronary care?
The public actually not only accepts these units, but is very willing to support them. For example, in Seattle.
The Seattle-Washington Medic One program. Dr. Leonard Cobb.
A barber downtown donated a whole 3-day period of time where they cut anybody's hair for $5, and the entire proceeds would go to the Medic One fund. They had a marathon around Green Lake where high school kids said that they'd run around the lake as fast as or as long as they could if someone would pay them $1 for every minute that they're out running, and they raised several $1,000s for the program. There are many stories like that.
Deputy Fire Chief John Philbin.
Grade school children, high school classes, they contributed. They had their own fundraising campaigns, and in headquarters here we were receiving buckets and jugs and jars full of money, small coins, and it was really a very heartwarming experience to see how the community responded to the program.
From the very beginning, we felt very strongly that this program should be a joint effort between the fire department, which for many years has carried out emergency medical care in this city, and Harborview and the university on the other hand. The fire department has a long-standing history in Seattle of giving excellence in emergency medical care. They have the dispatching facilities, the communication network that's already established. And basically all we had to do was to piggyback our ideas and thoughts onto an ongoing system.
2-year-old patients apparently in VTAC. We'll send you a script to confirm this. We request a plan B, over.
Is your chest kind of pounding now, or is it feeling pretty good?
Does anybody know this man? This is Medic One. Okay, received your transmission, doctor. We'll go ahead with plan B.
You say okay on the lidocaine?
Say okay on the lidocaine. Go ahead and start the IV.
No relatives? Nobody knows this man?
We have salt water to the west of us and Lake Washington to the east, and helicopters have played a role in transporting patients with emergency medical problems from the islands into Seattle. The role of Medic One in meeting the helicopters is appreciable. They're able to take over from the paramedics aboard the helicopters and transport the patient to the hospital, take care of cardiac problems if they do arise. Interestingly, one of the paramedics that's been involved with the helicopter program here in this community is Jerry Montgomery. Jerry works for the Seattle Times, has been very involved in the program from its inception, both in news coverage and in the fundraising program that was carried out a few months ago.
I got involved in the program as a news reporter a number of months ago mainly because they were having financial problems. We had such a public interest from the stories that we printed that before we ever thought about going to the public to save the project from ending, $17,000 had been mailed in spontaneously. I was just overwhelmed. I didn't believe it. And I still get checks in the mail every day. The ongoing education programs, such as are operated in this community by the American Heart Association, which does it in many other cities in the country, have been tremendously buttressed by programs such as Medic One. People have learned to understand what the classic symptoms of a heart attack are. They call early when they have a chest pain that they didn't expect. They don't say, I've got indigestion. They call early if they don't breathe too well. They call for help.
There are 86,000 seats in this stadium, and tomorrow each one of those seats will be filled.
Woody Hayes, head football coach, Ohio State, and past chairman of Central Ohio's Heart Fund campaign.
About 86,000 people. Multiply that by 7, and that makes about 600,000 people. That is the number of people in this nation who will die of a heart attack within the next year. 600,000, 2/3 of a million. By far, the most fatalities from any disease.
The doctor! The doctor! The doctor!
Actually, the ultimate goal of medicine is to prevent heart disease and eliminate heart attacks. But in the meantime, your community should take action to assure that a heart attack victim gets the benefits of an effective system of coronary care at the earliest possible moment. This can usually be accomplished by upgrading your existing emergency and coronary care programs, rather than by setting up an independent system for heart attack victims alone. The important thing is to have a workable system that meets the needs of your community.
From the minute that a heart attack symptom strikes, a life is on the line. It can go either way. A push in the right direction can be of great help. With that push, the heart can go on beating strongly for many, many years. The question is, will there be someone there who can give the push at the time that it's needed?
That's GRIGGS, a probable heart attack.
He's upstairs. He's hurting real bad.
Just take it easy. We'll get things under control.
Right, sir.